Hello to Betway's Cheltenham Festival Preview 2023. My name's Chad Yeomans and I'm delighted to be joined by Betway Ambassador Katie Walsh, Gary O'Brien and Jamie Codd. How are you all?
Good, Chad. How are you?
Good stuff, Chad. None about it.
Yeah, all good, all good. Excited. Just a few days away now from the Cheltenham Festival. We'll kick straight off and we'll look at the first race on the Tuesday, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Gary, I'm going to come to you first because at the National Hunt Season preview you did for us on Twitter at the start of the season, you put up Ilate Tomps at 25-1. And obviously after his victory at the Dublin Racing Festival, he's now into about 11-2. So do you still fancy him, Gary, or have you found another one to beat him?
I suppose I'd have to still fancy him, Chad, after his win last time. I thought the dream might have died when Facile Vega beat him at Edwardstone at Christmas. I figured after that maybe he mightn't even run in the Supreme Novice, but then obviously everything changed after the Dublin Racing Festival. And you know what? Even if I hadn't suggested that earlier on in the season, I still think he's the horse I'd be siding with here. I was really impressed by what he did last time. I think the strong run race, obviously overly strong probably by the two that went off, Facile Vega and High Definition, really suited him. He jumped pretty well and he beat some fair horses, even if the top ones didn't perform. In the Pocket, who finished second's a good horse. The third is no slouch either, Dark Raven. I just was really impressed by what he did that day. And if he can reproduce that at Cheltenham, I do think he's got a great chance, to be honest.
Jamie, I'll come to you next. Obviously, Facile Vega bombed out, if you like, at the Dublin Racing Festival. And in grade ones at the festival, horses who have finished out the first four, only 6 out of 315 since 2003 have gone on to win grade ones. I mean, it's a very galling stat if you finished out the first four. Can Facile Vega win the Supreme, or has he just got it all to do off the back of his last run?
Oh yeah, look, he can absolutely do it. He went to Cheltenham last year and won the champion bumper. Ultimately, I suppose American Mike has been disappointing this year, so maybe that form is quite questionable. But at the same time, he's a horse with a huge engine, and I think, you know, if Willie thinks he has him back in good form, he's still the one to keep on side. But there's a bit of depth in it all the same. Marine National, Ilate Tomps, as Gary said, and I kind of like a horse called Hunter's Yarn. He's been quite progressive this year, won well the last day in Navan. And he's just a horse, 2 mile, nice ground. He has a bit of experience and he's just coming in a little bit under the radar. So I think Hunter's Yarn could be, at a little bit of a price, could be the one to keep an eye on.
Hunter's Yarn for Jamie and Katie. Bringing you in, welcome. We've had a Hunter's Yarn, we've had an Ilate Tomps. Who wins the Supreme for you, Katie?
I think it's wide open, to be fair. I think it's very, very hard to go against Facile Vega all the same, but would I be backing him? Probably not. You know, obviously the last day was very disappointing, really, and I wasn't overly impressed with him at Christmas time either, to be honest with you. I thought he pulled up in 2 strides after the line, but still, again, I think it's a wide open affair. I think Barry Connell's horse, Marine National, is a horse that certainly is improving from run to run. I think the man on board seems to be very cool as well. And yeah, I mean, Gary's pick, I mean, would I be back in Facile Vega 2-1 when I think Ilate Tomps, you know, it's always a good run race. They always go good gallop. There's great hype. You know, there's going to be a real good gallop, which is only going to mean that he'll be able to settle him a little bit easier. Because he's a bit keen as well, even though they were going to go gallop the last day. He was a bit keen early, and actually the further they went, when the faster they were going, the easier he was going. Just like the way he picked up, went to the line as well. But I think it's wide open. I could see Facile Vega win if he reproduces his earlier form of the year and last year. But would I back him? Probably not.
No, I mean, it seems like it's going to be an Irish winner of the opener. We've got an incredible odds boost. An Irish trained winner on the opening day to win any of the races. We've boosted to even money from 33-1 on for maximum £10 for all customers. So, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a certainty. It looks like it's going to happen in the first race, but that's a huge odds boost in the first race. I personally think Ilate Tomps is going to win. I think he's just learning how to race now, and he's just getting it all together. The second race is the Arkle I think this is a really competitive Arkle. Certainly looks like it's going to be the best Arkle for a few years. Katie, I'll start with you. El Fabiolo versus John Bon versus Dysart Dynamo and San Juan, amongst others. Willie Mullins likely to win, right?
I mean, it looks that way. I mean, El Fabio was extremely good the last day. Ridden good and handy, competitive, jumped really well. His jumping has improved even from the first day. And he looks like the one that they all have to beat. John Bon has done nothing wrong this season. He's been so impressive over fences. Dysart Dynamo, I wouldn't be backing Dysart Dynamo, to be honest. I think he certainly won't be getting his way here with horses breathing down his neck, and that was apparent the last day as well. And he's not for me. I think San Roy got a great ride under Mark Walsh the time before to win at Leopardstown, and I'm sure he'd probably be ridden the same way. He settled up better over fences. Would appreciate it run here.
I think he's going to go up in trip to the Turners, to 2.5.
Well, for me, I think it's between El Fabiobo and John Bon, and I suppose I'd probably side with El Fabiobo after his win at Christmas. I thought he was very impressive.
Jamie, how do you see the Arkle turning out?
I'm a massive John Bon fan. I like the horse. I like his profile. He's coming in with a relatively easy prep for the Arkle. You know, he's won a point. He's been well schooled, and we know he can jump. I saw a video of him in Nicky's the other day, and he seemed to jump brilliant. The prep race the last day was it was a no contest. Two runners, messy race, but at the end he was 8 lengths clear, and he was doing a hack canter. The only worry I have here for John Bon is he obviously took on Dysart Dynamo last year in the Supreme, and I just worry that maybe El Fabiolo and John Bon might be looking at each other, and they might give Dysart Dynamo an easy lead. That'll be my only worry. If Dysart Dynamo gets that, he does jump very, very well. He's a quick, accurate jumper, and I just worry that maybe the two in behind, the two favourites could just get caught. But I'm a huge John Bon fan, and I think he's going to put on a good show.
And Gary, how do you see the Arkle going?
I find it tough to call, Chad. I think El Fabiolo is the most talented horse in the race, and I'd say he's got the best form as well. The Leopardstown race, I think, is above anything John Bon has done so far. But of the two of them, John Bon might just be the slightly more reliable jumper. El Fabiolo did make a mistake at Leopardstown, but I suppose that just shows you what a good horse he is. He was able to shrug that off and still win by, 10 lengths, I think, in the end. I don't know whether I'd have a bet necessarily in it. It should just be a great race to watch, shouldn't it, between the two of them? And Dysart Dynamo is not out of it. As Jamie said, if he gets his own way in front and he's able to settle effectively, like he did when he was on his own, say, in his beginners at Leopardstown, he seemed to settle well, just doing a solo that day. He would have a little chance as well, because this is obviously just short of 2 miles, so that will be a help to him also. So I don't know. I don't know whether I'd be getting stuck into one of these. I'm just really looking forward to seeing. I do think El Fabiolo is the best horse in it, though. El
Fabiolo, the best horse for Jamie. I think John Bon's the best horse, and I think we'll find out on Tuesday next week who really is the best horse. I do actually think that San Juan is learning to race now properly. Certainly seem to improve and mature for fences. He's only beaten 7 lengths in a champion hurdle, and I think he'll stay on and finish third in front of Dysart Dynamo. The feature race on day one is, of course, the champion hurdle. I think this is probably going to be one of the most exciting races of the week, if not maybe even one of the most easiest wins of the week for the short price favourite, Constitution Hill. Jamie, I'll come to you first. Constitution Hill, I mean, we're all saying he's won the champion hurdle before he's even started. How much of a race can State Man give him, or is Constitution Hill just in another stratosphere?
Look at on all known form, I think Constitution Hill he looks the best horse in the race with his form with Epitant in Newcastle and Kempton this year. You know, he's destroying that mare. Honeysuckle beat her 4 lengths in a champion hurdle last year, and then, you know, we see what State Man did to Honeysuckle the last day in Leopardstown, probably beat her 4 or 5 lengths. So I just think Constitution Hill, if he jumps well, which he looks to do, I think he's a step ahead of this opposition. Stateman is a good horse, but I don't know has he got that wow factor that Constitution Hill has, and that's why I think I'm going to side with Constitution Hill.
Gary, how do you see the Champion Hill going, or is it quite straightforward?
It does look Constitution Hill's race to lose, Chad, doesn't it? He just seems to have that little bit of extra quality that puts him above Stateman and I mean, Stateman's a very good horse, impossible to knock him like on what he's done over the past 12 months or so. But I don't actually think Stateman is a million miles in front of Vauban either. Vauban, last time out at Leopardstown, I don't think we saw the best of him. Stateman really kind of controlled that race from the front. And I think it'll be a different race at Cheltenham. I wouldn't even be shocked if Nico de Bonville let Constitution Hill roll on. So I fancy Vauban to run a big race. I seem to be the only person that does think he'll run well. Quite a few people think he won't even finish in the first three. But I just reckon, I thought Vauban ran very well first time out this season. Yeah, he didn't really improve from that last time, but I think that was more down to the way the race was run that day. And I think it might be set up a bit better for him this time. I wouldn't even be shocked if he beat Stateman for second, but I think they're probably just playing for places behind the favourite.
I agree with you, Jamie. Just to say, I'm a huge Vauban fan, and I do think that next year he'll go very, very close to the Champion. Obviously, he's got the 5-year-old this year. That it's very tough to win the Champion. Not only a couple have done it, haven't they, in recent years? Catch It and Espoir d'Allen from memory.
Yeah, Espoir d'Allen. And like Vauban, I think, has been brought along really steadily this season. He's only had the 2 runs. I don't think they've really dipped him fully yet, and I'd say Cheltenham and Punchestown probably been as big a jumpers all along.
Yeah, absolutely. And Katie, how do you see the Champion Hill opening up?
Sure, Constitution Hill looks the one all the way. He's been so impressive all year. He was so impressive in Cheltenham last year, and you know, I think Stateman's a good horse, but I agree with the lads. There's something special, it seems, about Constitution Hill, even in the way he does it and the style and the way he jumps. And I think it's Constitution Hill's race to lose, all going well. It's a bit obviously interesting to hear what Gary to say about Vauban. I was a bit disappointed with him in Leopardstown the last day, but do you reckon it was the way the race was it?
I think so, Gary. I thought Honeysuckle might make the run in that day, and in the end, just Stateman just basically was able to do what he wanted on the front end. I thought Paul just rode a really sensible race on him, and it made it hard for anything coming from back in the field, I thought. So I'd be happy enough to draw a line through that race from Vauban, and maybe I think it'll be different at Cheltenham anyway. Yeah,
exactly, and especially when I don't mean when you're hunting around for prize money, but you can ride him a bit. You're going to be guaranteed to get a gallop anyway, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so it'll be definitely be, and like he's 9-1, you know what I mean. So, and if you think he could be second, I mean that's going to be the best price of the day, because I mean, could it really be placed in the back in Constitution Hill?
What will the pace be though? Who will be the pace? Stateman and Constitution Hill. I don't know whether it'll be a big gallop there.
Well, I mean, you'd have to imagine with the gallop that the 2 horses went last year in the Supreme. I know was Dysart Dynamo and John Bon was, you know, Nico de Bonville must have been licking his lips halfway down the back because the lads were just going so hard, you know what I mean? And he picked them up in 2 strides. I mean, he seems that he can pick them up off any pace, and he seems to be quite a fast horse. But you'd imagine the quicker that they go, the better it's going to suit him. But yet again, he seems to be a faster horse than Stateman. So you'd imagine if you were Nico, you would, whatever Paul did in front, you'd imagine you'd have more gears at the other end of it, would you?
Yeah, I just don't know whether Stateman is going to want to set it up for Constitution Hill or vice versa. That's kind of where I'm at with this race. I don't know, is there anything else that will, I think everything else will be going around like they are in a maiden hurdle trying to get a bit of place for him or something like that. Like it's yeah, it is.
It's a funny one because it's not as if they're 2 keen horses. Like, we're not going to see a Champion Hurdle with no gallop, are we? Because I mean, it's not as if there is something that is free that does have a chance of bucking and going and bolting. Like, so that's not there. There's nothing there.
It could be very tactical to the top of the hill and see what has enough pace then and stay from the back of the last, I suppose, really. But look, it does look that Constitution Hill from that Newcastle race, even that he popped out, he made the run and he was very straightforward, jumped well. Yeah, I think he's very uncomplicated, but it'd be just interesting to see whether Nico will do that.
What do you think's the fastest horse in the race, Gary and Jamie? Like, what do you think has more gears, Constitution Hill or Stateman?
Oh, Constitution Hill, definitely, I think, Katie.
Yeah, and I think that's why Paul made the run-on and statement the last day too. I know there was nothing really to go on. Everyone thought Honeysuckle might make it, but I'd say he thought maybe further down the line that looking at a champion hurdle that he might be the one who was going to have to go, because the slower they go is not going to suit him. Like, so he looks like he will be the one who's going to have to end up in front, because I mean he's not going to. I don't know. Listen, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but he's not going to do Constitution Hill for gears. Constitution Hill's going to do him for gears. So is he going to have to stretch him?
Make a bit more use of him than he did at Leopardstown, anyway, I'd say.
Yeah.
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 The great conundrum of how the champion hurdle is going to be run. Exciting and great listening that was as well. So it looks like a clean sweep on Constitution Hill for everyone. Now, before we move on to Wednesday, is there anything else on the card on Tuesday that anyone wants to give a favourable mention to?
Jamie must be writing something.
Yeah, I'd say I'll probably ride a horse called Chemical Energy in the 3-5 chase, yeah, the 4 miler. But yeah, he has a chance, but Gaillard de Menil is just so far ahead of these on form. He's a grade 1. He's a grade 1 horse, second in Irish National, second season novice. He just ticks all the boxes. I think we'll be look at, obviously we'll be trying to win, but it does look Gaillard de Menil's race to lose. So we'll see after that. But look at, I don't think you can step into day one without mentioning Honeysuckle. You know, she's a 3-time festival winner, dual champion hurdle winner. Obviously going for the mares, but you just want to see her win. Like, I'd love to see her win, and I think she'd bring the roof down if she does.
Yeah, she really will, won't she? Gary, is there anything for you on day one?
Yeah, I'd love to see Honeysuckle win as well, Chad. Be interesting to see, does Marie's Rock run there, or maybe go to the Stayers? I think if she ran against Honeysuckle, she'd probably give her plenty to think about.
I think she's gone to the Stayers.
Is she? Yeah. I'd probably fancy her there as well, Katie, to be honest. But yeah, Honeysuckle's the one to be. I know she's probably not quite as good as she was, but she still is very, very good. Maybe Echoes in Rain might be next best there. I thought the Irish would probably win the Boodles as well, Chad. Takeo, to me, is probably not far off a grade 1 horse, and he's on a reasonable mark. And there's a few others in it there, Biker, Cougar, Common Practice. They're all good enough, I think, to win an average edition of that. So the Triumvirate, it looks as though the Irish have that one well and truly sorted, and I'd say that it could be similar with the Boodles.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be that way for majority of the festival, I think. Katie, is there anything you want to mention on the Tuesday before we move on to Wednesday?
No, I think as Jamie was saying about the 4 miler, or what was the 4 miler, it really suits a second season novice, and for Patrick's horse to have all that experience under his belt, and after winning a grade 1, I'd say can't wait to put his leg across him. And yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Like, I'd love to see Honeysuckle win. I don't think there's not anyone this side of the sea or that side of the sea that wouldn't like to see that mare win. I think there wouldn't be a dry eye in the place. It would be unbelievable for everybody.
Yeah, it'd be some place. That Cheltenham Winners' Enclosure is a right amphitheatre, isn't it? So if they'll all be singing and cheering in strong voice if Honeysuckle were to win the mares on Tuesday. Now, the opening race on Wednesday is the Ballymore Novices Hurdle, over 2.5 miles on the old course. Impere Pass has been one of the best backed horses, certainly of the Wednesday, but is definitely the best backed horse in that race now. He's into 9-4 market leader. Gary, I'll come to you first. Obviously, I think were you there when he won last time up?
I wasn't actually there. I saw it all right though, Chad. He was very impressive. He's a real good jumper. Looks a very classy horse, and the most significant thing I think about him is that while his form maybe isn't the best in the race, you've got a couple of horses in there against him who've won grade 1s. I mean, Ruby, David Casey, all the Mullins camp, they all seem to think that maybe he's not quite gone by, but he's definitely one of their big guns this week, and they all absolutely love him. So you'd have to respect that. I do think if you fancy the back one each way against him, though, good land for Barry Connell. I'd expect him to run a big race here. He's won a grade 1. He won at the Dublin Racing Festival. Very impressive that day. Like Impere Pass, he jumps really well, and he's an uncomplicated horse as well, Chad. He'd be ridden close to the pace. And I'd be surprised if he's not in the first three at the very least. He's a real good horse himself. If Impere passes as good as the lads seem to think he is, then he might have to settle for a place. But I think he's a solid each way bet.
I thought he was given a great ride by young Michael O'Sullivan at the Dublin Racing Festival.
Just kept it simple, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was a great ride. And I think he's a good each way value as well at 11-2. Now, Jamie, I'll come to you. Obviously, you've been doing a few of the panels as well. I think Imperial Pass has been mentioned at almost every single Cheltenham preview about being a good thing and a bit of an aeroplane. Is he your idea of the winner of the Ballymore?
Yeah, I suppose when the talk from Willie's about horses like this, it's very, very strong for me, for what he's done. You know, he beat the Model Kingdom 6.5 lengths in Punchestown in January. You know, it's going to be a big step up here. I love the form of the Lawlers in Naas every year. You know, it's given you winners like Envoy Allen and the likes in previous years of this race. And I'm kind of going to go back to that form with Cham Kiley and Irish Point. I think they're two very good horses. I think the drying ground will suit definitely Cham Kiley and possibly Irish Point as well. But I am impressed with Good Land. I think he's coming in on the back of that Grade 1 win at Leopardstown. I thought Michael O'Sullivan kept them very simple, jumped well. Just whether he could get a little bit hot and bothered if he rode him that prominent in Cheltenham. You know, he was nicely in his hands at Leopardstown. I just worry that maybe he could do a fraction too much. But look, maybe he'll sit him in a little bit over that kind of 2.5, 2.5 trip of the Ballymore. But I like Cham Kiley and Irish Point to run a big race.
Cham Kiley and Irish Point for Jamie and Katie. How do you see the Ballymore?
Yeah, well, there's so much talk about the top horse in Imperial Pass. I mean, it's hard to kind of go against it when everyone seems to be so strong. I mean, I know obviously on form you'd like to see a bit more and a bit more experience, but when the chat is so good, it's hard to go against it. And if there's one man that can pull all it off, it seems to be Willie. I like Goodland. You know, he's a 7-year-old. He's very likely raced, very, very likely raced, and he's a horse I think with loads of ability. And I actually think there's plenty of chat that this horse might be better than the horse that's running in the Supreme. So if that's the case, he could put it up to him.
Yeah, and I think that was going around at the Dublin Racing Festival as well. That Marine Nationale was not as good as Goodland. I mean, he was really well backed in that opening race as well when he won. And I think he's clearly still improving. For me, I think Imperial Pass has got a potent turn of foot. The turn of foot you need to win a Ballymore. So I do think that he is the one to beat. And I did think that before all the Willie Mullins whispers came out as well. So I'm very proud of that one. We'll move on to the Brown Advisory over 3 miles, a proper staying chase for novices. Jerry Colombe is I thought he was good the last day at Sandown. It looked like he'd met a bit of trouble 2 from home and then just stuck his head down and went away from the last from Balco Coastal. Katie, I'll come to you first. I mean, I was chatting to our friend Tom Bull earlier from Racing TV, and he'd mentioned that if Sir Gerard turns up, he's the best horse in the race and he'll win doing handstands. Is that true, do you think?
Yeah, I think Jerry Colombe. I thought Jerry Colombe was beat for a stride in Sandown the last day, but then really pulled it out of the bag. I think he's the one they all have to beat. Sir Gerard, I mean, he was good the last day. Was he breathtaking? I don't think so. I think he was all right in Goran the last day. He made definitely made one bad mistake anyway.
He won 38 lengths.
First time round. What did you say, Jamie?
He won 38 lengths.
Did he not nearly have the fence past the stands or the fence in front of the stands?
I did, but it's novice chase.
Yeah, but you're still going to have to step up. Like, what did he beat in Goran the last day?
The horse of Henry's, wasn't it?
Debut.
Largely debut, yeah.
Yeah, like it wasn't exactly strength and depth of it, was it?
No, but like you win 38 lengths, like it doesn't matter. Like 38 lengths is the length of the straight, nearly.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Jamie. I'll get you later in the long grass. Don't worry about that.
I'll be honest here, Katie.
I'll get you. Jerry Colombe for me anyway. And I thought he was gutsy in Sandown the last day, and I think he's the one they all have to beat. And Sir Gerard's a very good horse, but I thought his jump in the last day wasn't good enough, even though he won 38 lengths. I think this is a bit of a question mark. Jamie, anything to add to that?
No, happy enough, a fair assessment.
So Jamie, that naturally brings me on to yourself and your thoughts on it. I mean, look, Jerry Cologne, just out and out stayer, isn't he?
Yeah, the triple really suited him. He's a very good horse. He's unbeaten. You know, he's a laid back. You know, you wouldn't even notice him at home. Like, anybody could get up on him in the morning. He's just a gentleman of a horse to ride. And as I said, like, he is unbeaten. He won 2 bumpers. One is point to point. I think that he won by a neck that day in Linkstown, and the horse that he beat subsequently went to Dan Skelton's, and I think he's rated about 112. You know, he's just that kind of a horse. He only does what he has to do. But he is a good horse, and I was impressed enough with him in Sandown the last day. It's a sharp enough track, on the ground is tight enough as well. Fiddled his feet well down over the last 2 fences and down the back. And when he got past and his ground got taken, I just thought it was impressive that he was able to come back around him and win. But he's not going to have it all his own way, as I say. When you're looking at the likes of Sir Gerard, I thought last year he wouldn't get the trip of 2.5 into Ballymore, and obviously he got that well. But now he's stepping up the 3 miles, so it's an extra step up again. I think you jump better off better ground. He'd no company in Gorn for me going around. And then when he latched on down over the last 3 fences, Paul Townend gave him a good dig in the ribs over the last 2 fences, and I thought he was quite good. And also Tyne Hill, you know, he's a very, very good hurdler. He was near the top of the pile in the stairs division. Over hurdles, he has an only okay way of jumping, but he seems to get from A to B. But a very classy horse. So look at it, it's not going to be all one-way traffic, but I do think Jerry Cologne is the most straightforward. He loved the trip, he jumps well, and he's the most likely winner for me.
Most likely winner for Jamie is Jerry Cologne. So I'm a huge fan of a horse called Bron, trained by Willie Mullins, a 6-year-old, but I don't know if he's going to run. I've not seen much mentioned of him, but he's only beaten 2 lengths by Jerry Cologne earlier in the season. I think he's a real stay. I think he'll step up to 3 miles. I think he really wants this trip. He beat Churchstone Warwick Ferry House in a Grade 2 last season. He stays all day. So I do think Bron at 33 to 1, if he runs, he's a brilliant each way bet. Gary, anything on Bron from yourself, and how do you split Jerry Cologne and Sir Gerhard?
I'm not sure whether Bron runs or not, Chad. I haven't actually heard much tell about him, so that's an interesting shout, all right. But Jerry Cologne's the solid horse here, all right. You can't knock him; he's never been beaten. But just what would worry me is he's 7 to 4, and I think if you're going to back a horse at Cheltenham at 7 to 4, you kind of want all your ducks in a row. And like, there is 2 horses in there who are better than him over hurdles, Sir Gerhard and Tyne Hill, and it's not like they've taken badly to chasing as well. So from that point of view, just from a punter's perspective, I'd struggle to back Jerry Cologne at 7 to 4. He is a very good horse, could easily win. I think the step up in trip will be a big plus for him. But if Sir Gerhard and Tyne Hill put in clear rounds, he won't have it all his own way, I don't think.
Is it not a worry, Gary, that it's just Sir Gerhard just hasn't seemed to have been perfectly fit all season, or Willie just hasn't been happy with him? You know, he was due to run in the Morgiana in November. And then from then, it's just been setback after setback, and he's only run twice, or once, is it?
Just the once.
Yeah, it's just the once. Yeah, it was just the once.
I thought he was going to miss the whole season at one stage, and then all of a sudden he was back and he was going chasing. Yeah, it would be a little bit of a worry. It's very hard to go to Cheltenham, I suppose, and win just on the back of one competitive race. But as Jamie said, he did win it by a very wide margin. Willie seems to think this is the right race for him, that it will help his jumping. I'm not saying for a second I'd back Sir Gerhard now either. Like, he's got a lot to prove, but I think there's enough reasons there maybe to not get stuck into Jerry Cologne as well.
Does anybody fancy the real whacker, or think he's got a nice chance at all for Patrick Neville?
Just yourself.
No, not me at all.
I've heard his name mentioned a few times, and I don't know where this is coming from. I don't think so. You take out Jerry Colombe even, but like you put him in beside Sir Gerhard and Time Hill, he's nowhere to be seen. So I don't fancy him. No.
I mean, I wouldn't. Oh, sorry, Chad. I wouldn't fancy him either. I mean, it's great. Paddy Neville's done really well since he went over to England, and I think it's more because this horse won at Cheltenham already, and kind of a lot of people were watching that day. I don't think it was the most competitive race. He does jump very well, in fairness to him, but Jamie's hit the nail on the head there. I think class-wise, he'd be a bit behind the others we've been talking about there.
No, it's interesting. He's been towards the head of the market for the whole winter, but then when you look at his form and what he's achieved, and those wins at Cheltenham, he's nowhere near, and I think he should be near a 66 to 1 than 6 to 1 if I'm being brutally honest.
I think on the day he'll be 8, 10, maybe even 12 to 1.
Yeah, he's a huge price on the day. So we'll move on to the feature race on the Wednesday, the Betway Queen Mother Champion Chase, our 9th year of sponsoring the Showpiece 2 mile event. We've got another odds boost on this. So Energumene or Edwardstone to win is even money from 5s on, and we're doing that at £10 as well for all customers. So with that in mind, Gary, Edwardstone or Energumene to win for the Betway customers, or is there something else, do you believe?
Well, we haven't been tipping up too many English horses so far, Chad, but I think this might be one that'll stay at home. Edwardstone, I think, is the most likely winner. Obviously, the race at Cheltenham last time, the race that was rescheduled from Ascot's the key piece of form for this. Edwardstone ran really well that day. I thought he kind of just maybe ran out of puff close to home because of the work he had to do to pick up the leader. He got a great ride that day, Editor Dujit. I don't think we saw the best of Energumene that day. He was kind of jumping into the back of the horse in front of him a bit, I thought. And when I've seen him stride on from the front, I think that's where he looks at as most impressive. Now, he's not going to be able to probably dominate from the word go here with Editor Dujit in there, but I'd be surprised if Paul Townend doesn't ride Energumene a lot closer to the front this time, maybe even jump off up sides and see how that goes. So it's set up to be a great race, but I think if Edwardstone just sits in behind the other two, sits close enough on their tail, he'll be able to pick them off late on.
Yeah, fair enough. And Jamie, I'll come to you.
Yeah, look at it. We got a good guide from the Clarence House that was in Cheltenham the last day. Edwardstone, I suppose he probably ran a hell of a race when you really look at it. I think Tom Cannon was maybe looking at Paul Townend a little bit too much on Energumene, and the winner obviously slipped him. But what he did from the turn in to the line, it was quite incredible. He made up a lot of ground, got past the winner, and he just couldn't see it out after making up that ground. So they'll obviously won't give Gary Moore's horse as much rope. I thought Energumene ran well. I do think the fences affected him. Maybe other people will say don't be so stupid, but I do think they did affect him. And I still fancy Energumene to win on the back of that Cheltenham run. He's only beaten 6.5 lengths. I just think he's jumping, made a couple of, as Gary said, jumped into the back of a few of the horses, and it was just a muddling round of jumping. So I think if he can put that together. Also last year on the Wednesday, the ground got very heavy, and I think Paul gave Energumene a really good ride in the champion chase, whereas if the ground stays good this year, I think we'll see a different horse. I think he'll just pop him out the gate there and keep it very simple and use his jumping, and I think Energumene will win.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's much the best horse. Katie, obviously we've all mentioned Edwardstone and Energumene. Is it between those two, or is there something at a bigger price? Obviously, we saw Gentleman to Me beat Blue Lords at the Dublin Racing Festival. He might get his favoured better ground. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of rain, but at Cheltenham over the next few days, but it could largely be dry throughout the week.
Yeah, I still think it's between the top two horses. I mean, I'm a big fan of Edwardstone. I think Energumene the last day, it was just messy from the word go, and it just didn't really quite work out for him. But I still feel that Alan King's horse won the Arkle last year, was good, handles the place well. So does Paul's horse, but Tommy Chase kind of fell apart a bit last year, and I just kind of feel that this horse, I've always liked him, and I think he's a horse that's on the up, and I think it could be another English winner.
So we've got 2 for Edwardstone, 2 for Energumene. So it certainly looks like that we're going to be paying out plenty on that odds boost in the Betway Queen Mother Champion Chase. Now, before we move on to Thursday, is there anything else on the Wednesday that anybody would like to mention? Gary, I'll come to you first.
Not too much. I suppose the Coral Cup, the handicapper's given a huge chance. I mean, everybody's copped onto it, but Campron, the horse that was 4th in it last year, Chad, I mean, he's run twice over hurdles this winter. He got brought down the first day and has completed twice over hurdles. And he's been dropped £9. I mean, I don't know if Jamie or Katie know how many times you'd have to run here in Ireland to come down £9, but it'd be a lot more than 2. You'd probably have to run at least 6 or 7 times, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He's been given some chance by the handicapper. Like, he's £2 lower than when he was 4th in it last year. So I don't know. I think he could take a hell of a lot of beating there. And the bumper, the horse I fancy with the bumper wasn't entered. I thought Ballyburn looked the best at Willie's when he won at Punchestown, but I think the owner wasn't mad keen about Roddy Bartlett about running him at Cheltenham, so he's not going now. So that's my bumper angle up in smoke, I'm afraid, Chad.
No, well, obviously I saw that Ballyburn as well. He beat Irish Panther, who was really, really, really well fancied that day. It looks like he's going to be an absolute Grade 1 horse for the future, doesn't he? He's going to be winning plenty of races next season and beyond. Jamie, anything else on the Wednesday for you?
No, School Galvin last week or 2 weeks ago in Cheltenham. So if the ground stays good in the cross country, he's got a chance. He's a Grade 1 horse stepping back into that division. Like, Delta work looks very good. Is he a bit ground? You know, if the ground got very deep last year, and only for the ground got deep, I don't think he would have beaten Tiger Roll. So I think that he will be very interesting in there if the ground stayed good. And I can't wait for the bumper. I think it's the most open bumper that we've had in a long time. And there's some really, really good horses here, but we don't know which is the best one. Maybe if Willie or Gordon had a dream to share, I'd say he'd be 1 to 100 on. You know, he's shown the best form. I thought his Leopardstown run was really, really good. But with some depth in this, Willie will probably run 5 or 6. Gordon could run 3 or 4. There's a good filly of Oliver Sherwood called Queen's Gamble, and also
what's the best of Gordon's, Jamie?
Katie, I swear to God, I actually don't know. We think better days ahead. Honestly, we think better days ahead. What?
Oh God, are you for real?
I think I am, because in other years, all right, just listen now. I know I am a little bit mad, but just like, say we had Envoy Allen, we knew he was our best bumper horse. We knew Sir Gerhard was our best bumper horse. We knew Fiona was our best bumper horse, and we knew.
Right, you've got choice here now. What would you ride at Gordon's?
I won't lie. They're working tomorrow, and I'm not. I know this is an easy way out. It's a cop out, but that's kind of where I really, really like Better Days Ahead. I think he's a good horse. I think No Time to Wait could be a very talented horse, but he needs a bit of minding. And the other horse that I really like is a feel something.
But you don't fancy that one anyway, because you can't
Pour
even
Le
mention the name.
Pour Le Fil. But David Russell will ride him. He'll definitely ride him because he's associated with the owner, Kenny Haughey. So I suppose, look at it, it's probably my ride is going to be Better Days Ahead or No Time to Wait.
Okay.
And then if you could ride one of Willie's in another world, if you could ride any of Willie's, who would you ride?
If I could ride one of Willie's, I love the horse in Navan. What's he called?
It's for me.
It's for me.
It's for me, yeah. Desire did quite well recently. Sorry, it's for me, yeah. He did quite well recently. He's won a few bumpers and that. And Yeah, he's probably the one. And the filly, Fun. I thought she put in a really, really good performance in Leopardstown the last day. But I don't think she might not run. She might be waiting for Aintree or Punchestown. Yeah.
That mare's bumper or Aintree will suit her down to the ground. But again, I think she'll be closer to odds on if she did run in that and skip this. Katie, is there anything for you? Who would you ride if you were still riding and could ride one in the bumper? Obviously, we all remember your ride on Renegade.
I'd love to ride a Dream to Share. I'd love to drop out a Dream to Share and follow them around and pick them up there at the last, because I'd say Dream to Share could sounds crazy now, but could be a Melbourne Cup horse. I think he's loads of pace and loads of gears. I'd say it could be high quality flat horse if you wanted. Oh, they always seem to go gallop in this race. I don't know. Like I'd love to hunt around, and I think he's loads of gears.
Yeah, I'd agree with Katie there, 100%. I think it's going to suit a horse that's going to be dropped in and seeing what's happening in the race in front of him. And, but a Dream to Share is 100%. I'd say he could be very, very good.
I mean, he looked very good at the Dublin Racing Festival. I was with Ross and Gary Cribbin, and somebody had mentioned to me that John Kiley's in the bumper was a good thing. And I had a quick look through the form and thought, absolutely not. No more Guinness for you. And it turned out it was the best thing of the weekend. It was unbelievable. So, yeah, and obviously JP McManus has bought him since. So, what a race that's going to be. What a race that is going to be. We'll move on to the Thursday. The Turners is the first race on the Thursday. Obviously, move to the new course, slightly stiffer track. Katie and Jamie, just before we kick off on that, just for those viewers who are new to racing or certainly to Cheltenham, the old course is on the Tuesday and Wednesday, and the new course is on the Thursday and Friday. What is the difference in both courses? Jamie, I'll start with you.
Which are basically Tuesday and Wednesday's track is a bit you're on the outside, but then you come down sharper off the hill. So there's a shorter run from the bend to the home straight, and then when you get to Thursdays and Fridays track, you can see like when the Triumph or the Stairs, the long run went to the last fence or to the last hurdle from the home bend. It feels like you're never getting there. It's just a longer track. You go further out up onto the top of the hill and further down into the straight. So it's just a wider track as such on the Thursday and Friday.
So Katie, more of an emphasis on stamina in the latter 2 days.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think everyone has been guilty, especially on the Thursday or Friday, of maybe getting involved too soon coming down off the hill. I mean, you go through the wings of the second last, you're 3 furlongs from home. 3 furlongs from home is the turn in Navan. Like if you picked it up in a bumper or hurdle race in the turn in Navan, like you know what I mean, you deserve every bollocking that you get. You know what I mean? Like it's a long way home from there. There's nearly 2.5 furlongs down to the last hurdle. You know what I mean? So there's just a massive difference, and the two finishes have to be ridden totally different, really. And mind you, the amateurs don't really experience it because it's usually the chase on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, isn't it? So we don't really get as much an opportunity, obviously, as the professionals to really see the fall of it. But it's they're two, as Jamie just said, hit the nail on the head. There's just the first is a shorter run in the Tuesday, the Wednesday compared to the Thursday and the Friday.
Thank you both for that. So Gary, I'm going to come to you first with your selection in the Turners. Obviously, we saw Mighty Potter absolutely dot up. He sluiced up, didn't he, at the Dublin Racing Festival. It looks like Banbridge is stepping up in trip to this, as we'll appreciate it, and a few others slightly down the field. But it's all been about Mighty Potter in the betting, and he's now 6-4 favourite. Is he your idea of the winner?
Oh, without a doubt, Chad. Yeah, I think he's a similar sort of price to Jerry Colombo, who we were talking about earlier on, maybe a little bit shorter. But to me, if you were going to back one of those two, there's no doubt it'd be Mighty Potter. I mean, he's a hell of a horse. I think ability-wise, there aren't too many better horses in training in Ireland at the moment. To me, he's in the same sort of league as Galopin Des Champs was going into this race last year in terms of his potential. I mean, he won a couple of grade ones over 2 miles over hurdles. He's taken really well to fences. He won a couple of grade ones on his last couple of starts as well. Looks the type of horse that would probably get any trip. I don't see any real hole in him. The one thing that's in the back of your mind is he did blow out at Cheltenham last year. It was the only day I think I ever backed him. Actually, he ran like a goat that day. I don't know what was wrong with him, but he put that behind him, won at Punchestown. He hasn't looked back since then. I'd be happy to just put it down to a blip. I mean, any horse can have an off day. I just love everything about him. Funny enough, the one day he didn't impress me was the first day he ran in the beginners at Down Royal, but he was probably on a hiding to nothing that day. He was long odds on and they hacked around, and I suppose maybe he was always going to look unimpressive workmanlike, but the 2 runs after that, he was brilliant in the Drinmore. Same again at Leopardstown last time, powered away from the last fence. I think Appreciated will beat Banbridge. I think Banbridge got a really canny ride from JJ the last day just to pick up the pieces late on. He knew from a long way out he wasn't going to win that Arkle, so he maximised his gains there. And I think Appreciated could well improve going up in distance, but I just think Mighty Potter's, he could be a different class.
Yeah, he certainly looked at the last time off. So I think his defeat at Cheltenham last year, it kicked off for him. Before he was down the chute, he was kicking a book in. I think he went through some of the Duralock fencing, and then he almost did the splits at 3 or 4 out. So I think you can completely put a line through that. It's a real excuse for that. Now, Jamie, you rode Mighty Potter in his bumper win at Punchestown, if memory serves me correct. Did you think that day he was going to go on to become a multiple Grade 1 winner?
Oh yeah, of course I did. No, look at he was a big like he's a huge big horse. He's 17 hands. You know, I suppose to win a bumper at that stage of the year, I think it was maybe the second week in February, that Punchestown 4-year-old bumper is. So for him to run in the bumper, let alone win it as a 17 hands horse, 4-year-old, was quite impressive. And then from then on, when he won that, I suppose we started to think that, you know, he could be something very, very nice. And he did. Look, at last year was a brilliant year for him. You know, bar Cheltenham, where he completely bombed out. There was something wrong with the horse, but I thought it was Gordon's training performance of the year last year was to get that horse back from Punchestown, and to do that, I thought it was incredible, because, you know, he pulled up in Cheltenham. A lot of other people would have just written him off for the year and said, right, we're going novice chasing next year. But he didn't, and he put in a great performance in Punchestown. He's been really good this year. His jumping for me is really, really good, but he can just lack a little bit of concentration at times. As we've seen in the Drinmore over the 4th and 3rd last, he was doing things so simply. You know, knuckled at the back of them, but then when the rest of them came around him down to the second last, he clicked into gear, and then boom, boom, down over the last two out, and the last, it was brilliant. And the same in Leopardstown, going away from the stands, Davey gave him a little squeeze, put down, didn't look that good, but never lost any ground. And then from there on home, he's just so, he's doing a half speed, really. I think if you throw this horse back into the Arkle, he would probably trouble John Bon and El Fabiolo, but I think he's at the right trip. I hope he wins. He's a very, very good horse, and I really do. I just hope he wins and puts in a good performance. I just thought Appreciated coming up now. The only thing I'm worried about with Appreciated, all the talk last year, Champion Hurdle, bombed out in that a bit. I know he led him down to the last first run of the year. He's been good this year, but I don't know, has he trained on to the level that we thought? He could put in a great performance here and make a liar of you, but I'm not so sure about him. Maybe Balco Costa to run well at a price. Thought he didn't see out the trip in Sandown. Looks like maybe dropping back in trip, he could run a nice race each way.
At a price, I mean, I think Adamantly Chosen will finish in front of Appreciate It. I think he's done nothing wrong in finishing second to Mighty Potter the last twice, and I think he'll stay on and finish second to him again. Katie, I'll bring you in at this point. Mighty Potter, clean sweep, wins the Turners.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he's in the right race. I think it's definitely the weakest, and I think he's a very, very, very good horse. And you know, I thought he was brilliant the last day. I think he's the one they all have to beat. I think Banbridge was ridden to run well the last day. He wasn't ridden to win, as Gary said. I think Appreciated was ridden to win, and he didn't win. But I do think Appreciated will finish in front of Banbridge. But Appreciated's 9.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a bit with you. I like Adamantly Chosen at a price to be placed 14 to 1. think it's better value than appreciated at 4-1 to be placed. I don't think either of them will win, but I think there's definitely a better price there at 14-1 for Adam to chosen to be placed.
Yeah, and he jumps and stays, and I think that the race will be set up for him nicely. So we'll move on to one of two feature races on the card. Now it's kind of the Ryanair has grown into being a feature race along with the stayers. Gary, I'll start with you. Obviously, Shishkin I thought was excellent at Ascot, despite the fact he didn't beat a great amount, really. I thought Fakir did underperformed. But without Allaho, this race has kind of dropped out slightly, hasn't it, in terms of stature this year and interest, and it looks like it's subpar renewal, shall we say. But is it Shishkin's to lose off the back of that result at Ascot?
Yeah, I think it is, Chad, to be honest. The only kind of slight worry I had after Ascot was that he might have had maybe a slightly harder race than ideal, maybe a little bit closer than ideal to Cheltenham. But I was actually talking to Ruby about that a couple of weeks ago, and he actually thinks the opposite. He thinks Nico drove him out to the line because he felt the horse really needed a good, proper blowout, and he thinks it'll bring him on for the Ryanair. So if that's the case, I mean, he was brilliant at Ascot. If he's going to step up on that in the Ryanair, we could be in for something pretty amazing. He is one of the real star names of jump racing, isn't he? And it's been great to see him return this season, because I probably wasn't alone. I wondered whether we'd seen the best of him after he pulled up at Cheltenham last year. But fair play to Nicky Henderson. He's done a great job. Him and his team, they've brought him back. No Allaho, as you say. Hopefully they will get to meet at some stage, but there's nothing of Allaho's calibre in the opposition against him here. Janadil's a good horse. I'd say Blue Lord will run in this as well. You'd expect them to keep him honest, I suppose. But like, if Shishkin turns up on his A game, I think there's only one winner. Yeah, Katie, is Shishkin your idea the winner here?
Yeah, sure. It was so disappointing last year, was it? Like, it was such a flop. It was all over. Got down to the start. It looked like from the time they jumped off, it was all over. It was so disappointing. And yeah, done a remarkable job to get him back. And thank God they did, because it just goes to show, like, Allaho is nowhere to be seen. And here he is, odds on. 2 wind ups in. And yeah, it looks like it's his race to lose. Yeah, as the lads were saying, Blue Lord, you'd imagine he's going to keep him honest. But if Shishkin rocks up, like, he's superior to these, and it's his race to lose.
Jamie, a clean sweep of Shishkin?
No, I'm actually taking him on.
Good man.
Yeah, he has to back it up for me. He was very impressive in Ascot, but you know, this is another test. So look, he obviously is the best horse in the race, but like Blue Lord's a good horse. I thought the last day he was a little bit flat. And like, the likes of Fury Road has been running consistently well enough this year. So he's, another one that you can put on the list. Janadil could have a chance as well. And maybe Envoy Allen even. Like, if Shishkin doesn't
come out of it, Envoy Allen. So that has to be.
Yeah, I know, but he's a jewel festival.
Just because you want a bumper on him for you.
Yeah, I know, but I just think, like, he beat Kenboy in Down Royal, which is fine. Bombed out in the Kempton at Christmas in the King George, but like, he knows how to win around there. If Rachel can give him a chance, and maybe look, his wind is obviously not as good as what it once was, but if he can get a chance going around there, he could run a nice race. Not saying win, but if Shishkin doesn't perform like I think he will, something has to win it. So what is it?
Well, you're the one who opposed Shishkin, so what do you think will win it?
Who will win it now?
Yeah, if Shishkin doesn't win, you're the one who's going to take him on. So what are you going to take him on with?
To be honest, I think Shishkin will bomb out Katie, but I don't know.
So what wins?
I don't know what will pick up the pieces. I'm saying like Blue Lord, Fury Road, or maybe Envoy Allen. So some of them will win it.
One of them will win it.
Yeah.
He does.
For those 38 lengths, Jamie.
Don't sit on the fence.
No, I think it's great. That's what these are for, getting opinions and getting thoughts. I think I'm half with you, Jamie. I think I'm half with the fact that I think he had a tough race last time, and I don't think it was good form. And we'll see. I certainly won't be backing him at 8-11. And I'm sure he'll no doubt be sure.
And what do you think will win it then if Shishkin doesn't win it? Well, what are you going to back?
I will back in Janadil each way. I thought he was placed in the race last year. I thought he showed a quick turn of foot from the second last to the last and away from the last to beat Horton Couleurs on his seasonal reappearance recently. I think he's been trained for the spring, and I just think at the prices, I'd rather be backing him to get placed at 9-4. Is he not as a 9-1 winner, 9-4 place, than Shishkin at 8-11? That would be my way of looking at the book. We will see. We will see. But with that, we will move on to the Stayers hurdle. Really wide open this year. Really wide open. And we've seen plenty of different.
Home by the Lee. All day.
Apparently, it's not wide open. Apparently, it's not wide open. Katie, considering you're so keen and eager to discuss Home by the Lee, give us your case. Make your case for Home by the Lee.
I think Home by the Lee is turning a corner rapidly. I think that was unlucky, obviously, up the north. JJ blamed himself for that. Came back to Navan and looked like he lost everywhere and then just took off and won. But improved off the back of that to be very impressive in Leopardstown the last day. And I think for the price that he is, I think it's a wide open race, wide open. And I think Home by the Lee will win.
Home by the Lee for Katie. So, Gary, you mentioned earlier you think Marie's Rock will probably go close in this. Obviously, she gets a £7 mare's allowance. Blazing Carl has only been seen once. Say Hooper, I thought's been good, but is he going to want this ground? You know, I think we've seen him avoid better ground, and now seems like he is in favour of it. And obviously, Flooring Porter, dual winner of the race. I think he's not had an ideal preparation, has he? But Marie's Rock for you, perhaps?
Yeah, I think I'd be with Marie's Rock if she runs, Chad. I know she's never actually run over the distance, but she's always finishing her races off strongly when she runs over 2.5, 2 miles 5. She's actually definitely bred to get it. Quite a stout pedigree she has too. She can be a little bit keen in her races, so maybe that would be a slight concern. But I think if they do opt to run her in this, to me, I'd take that as a big vote of confidence in how Connections feel a better chance, put it that way, because it has turned into a much hotter Stayers hurdle than it looked like it was going to be earlier on in the season. You've obviously Home by the Lee is a new kid on the block. Tihupo's is come onto the scene as well, and Blazing Cal obviously with the win at Navan. So they're all in the mix. The French horse won well at Cheltenham. All of a sudden, it looks a pretty tidy race, doesn't it? But I just feel Marie's Rock, she's already shown that she's really, really high class over the intermediate distance. And as you say, getting the £7 allowance, if the 3 miles actually might even bring out the best in her, you could just see her maybe winging past them from the last up the hill, which she obviously has done in the past at Cheltenham.
Yeah, she has got good course form. Obviously won the mares last season, as you say. Jamie?
Yeah, I'm actually a massive Flooring Porter fan. You know, a dual Stayers hurdle winner. I thought he ran well at Christmas. I just thought maybe Danny maybe just didn't get the fractions as right. If you watch when he went past the winning line again, he was gone on him again. He's a very, very quirky horse, but he's only an 8-year-old. You know, there's still a one good last year in him, and I think this could be it. I think Danny will look at, he is a one-trick pony. People know what he's going to do. He's going to pop out. He's going to make the running. But I just think Danny will get the fractions right, and I think the horse will take a lot of beating again. Home by the Lee was beaten 7 or 8 lengths last year. Can he, on the back of that? I always find that those horses that run in those races, can they step up the next year and win it? Look, at some can, but I'm not so sure myself. I'd be more inclined to go with Gary to say that the likes of Maria's Rock getting a £7 allowance, she could step forward for the trip, and also Tiapu, if he's not that ground dependent. Those two are the most interesting ones for me, that the potential is there to improve from the trip and from the ground. So it's Flooring Porter for me, but Maria's Rock and Tiapu to be the dangers.
There we go. So we've had a...
If the rain comes like it did last year, and it's absolutely bottomless, Tiapu all day long. But I don't think if the rain comes, I can't see Tiapu. He's definitely not the same horse on nicer ground as what he is in heavy ground.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that, but maybe the trip might take that out of it. I don't know. Like that's the unknown. I rode him the other day. Actually, we done a little bit of screen on him, and he does give you the look at it. You can see it through his form, but he does give you the opinion that he will want soft ground. But look, he's going to run now and see where he's at.
There we go. So we've had a home by the Lee, we've had a Marie's Rock, and we've had a Flooring Porter and a Marie's Rock. Now, before we move on to the fourth and final day, is there any other favourable mentions on the Thursday, Gary? Come to you first.
Does Jamie know what he's riding into Kinmure?
I think maybe Dunboyne.
Of course he does. He wouldn't have any.
He's got so many irons in the fire, Katie. That's the problem.
I know, sure. Looks like a politician. He takes so much time to answer his questions.
Yeah, Gordon was away now. He was in Dubai there, sunning himself there for the last 4 or 5 days. So he's only home, and he's obviously working horses today and tomorrow. And he said he'd know more then. The only problem with Dunboyne, he'd be a very, very good ride, but he could be a little bit ground dependent. He does like soft ground, but on the back of his test days run, I thought it was a really, really good run, and he'd be a good ride.
Yeah, I do actually think Gavin Cromwell's horse will win the chance. Stumptown, the horse that won in Sandown. Thought that was a really clever thing to do, running him in England last time, because the way the British handicappers treating the Irish horses, he had to obviously rate him vis-a-vis the horses he ran against that day, the British horses. So not alone has he done that, he's also gone up enough to get him into the race. Barry O'Neill's riding him, I think. He jumped brilliantly down the back at Sandown. He was a joy to watch. And he just seems to have turned the corner since they've started riding him up on the pace. So he's got a lot going for him, I think. There's another mare in it I do really like, actually, Angel's Dawn of Sam Curlings, who unseated last time. But a couple of things. I don't know, first of all, whether she'll make it in. And even if she does, she's a mare that tends to be dropped right out, and you obviously need all the luck to find a way if you're going to win.
We'll get a run, Gary, and Derek is booked to ride her. So that'll be a positive now for anybody looking at her. Look, she knows how to lose as well. Like, there's been a few days now where she's probably, you thought she was going to win, and she's let them down a bit. But with Derek riding, getting in off, a nice-ish weight in it, I'd agree with you completely. She has a chance.
Yeah, she's definitely well handicapped still. And Derek, that'd be a fair vote of confidence now from Derek, because I'd say he's getting down to near rock bottom. Would he be around 11 stone thereabouts?
Yeah.
And she's been really well back to the past 48 hours, 14s into 7, so halved in price. So that's a lot of market support as well. So we'll move on to the fourth and final day, the Friday, and we'll start with the Triumph Hurdle. Katie, two questions. First of all, who do you think Paul Tanner will ride out of Lossiemouth and Blood Destiny? And then who do you think will win the Triumph Hurdle?
I don't know what Paul Townend's going to ride, and I think if I was Paul Townend, I would stick with Lossiemouth. I think she's been very impressive all year. Thought she was very lucky in Leopardstown the last day. I know that Willie thought what happened in the race maybe could leave an impact, because she actually quite a hard race at the end of it, and he was a bit worried, was it going to leave a bit of an impact on her for Cheltenham itself. But there's nearly 6 weeks between champions weekend, isn't there, in Cheltenham, really? So you'd like to think she'd bounce out of that well. Seems to be a lot of support obviously for Blood Destiny, but there's no, and obviously the lads were saying there's plenty of chat for Blood Destiny, but I just don't think there's any substitute for form. And I mean, there's been a lot of horses that have given people different feelings over the years, and they thought they were this and thought they were that. But unless it happens on the track, and I know obviously it was very good the last day, but I think Lossiemouth's form is rock solid, and I'm going to stick with Lossiemouth. It's definitely coming back to Ireland anyway. That's all I know, because the Irish juveniles are a hell of a lot better than the English ones. They're useless.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of lots of races at the moment as well. So Gary, we won't talk about that. We will talk about the Triumph Hurdle in a bit more detail. Who do you think will win the Triumph? Do you agree with Katie? Is Lossiemouth the one to beat on all known form?
Oh, she definitely is on the form, Chad. Yeah, it's just the little bit of a doubt in your mind if you're thinking about having a few quid on her is that some of the good judges and Willies do seem to really rate the other horse. And actually, I was just saying to Katie there, her dad really fancies Blood Destiny as well. I was talking to him in Leopardstown the other day. I think he said it might be his nap of the week. So Blood Destiny is obviously a bit of a buzz horse. And I did really like him when he won first time out down at Cork. He looked a lovely horse. The race in Ferryhouse last time was a bit of a solo. I mean, it was all over after jumping the first 2 hurdles that day. You couldn't really read a lot into it. But like, he's the same price now as Lossiemouth, and Lossiemouth definitely has achieved a bit more than him on the track. So look, it's probably one of those races I'd be quite happy just to let them at it, see who the best horse is without necessarily having a financial involvement, Chad.
And Jamie, who do you think will win the Triumph Hurdle?
I thought Blood Destiny put in really, really good performance the last day, and on the back of that, I just think the mare had a hard race in Leopardstown. For look at things didn't pan out in the race, but I just thought she had a hard enough race. And on the back of that, I think it's between them two. It is. She's a very, very good filly, but just Blood Destiny's win in Ferryhouse I thought was really, really good. I thought he destroyed him, jumped well on a hole, and I think that is the strongest form. So I'm going to go for him. But I really like John McConnell's Hypotenuse at a massive price. He was second by Zenta. He came from France. He's a Luke de Vega horse. I think he'll appreciate better ground. John is going to run him here because he said if he doesn't win, he'll still remain a novice for next year. But I've seen this horse work a few times, and he's quite a good workhorse now, and at a big price he could run very well.
That's Hypotenuse for Jamie at a big price, but Blood Destiny, the main selection. I think that Gust of Wind, who ran first time for Willie in that race, Galamasso won at Dublin Racing Festival. I thought he ran a lot better than the form would suggest, and I thought he would come on plenty for that, and he's about 33 to 1. So we'll move on to the Albert Bartlett on the Friday. Really competitive, lucky renewal. I think it's going to be one of the best renewals of the Albert Bartlett since was it Fury Road, Time Hill, latest exhibition. That ilk, because the race was quality. There's 4 of them finished in the line. I think we're going to have a similar sort of race where there's plenty of winners come from. I really like Dawn Rising of Joseph O'Brien's. Thought he was really good when he beat American Mike, and I thought he needs a step up in trip now. When he finished third to Champ Kylie. Jamie, I'll come to you first for the Albert Bartlett. Now, I know at the start of the season you're a huge 3-card Bragg fan. Do you remain that same fan of 3-card Bragg, or do you think there'll be something to beat him?
No, I think he's a good horse. He is a good horse. I think his jumping could improve a little bit. But if he stays the trip, which we think he will, I think he could be one of the classier horses in the race. But this is not simple now. This is a bit of depth in it for an Albert Bartlett. Like it's like Emmett's horse Corbett's Cross was good in Naas, over 2 mile, and now they're going to step him up to 3 mile for this. Hidden Valley Lake was impressive in Cork and maybe slightly disappointed in Clonmel behind another one of Henry's, Monty Star, but you'd imagine the better ground was going to suit him. Favior, the Shampoo, is a good stayer, good hardy horse. You know what you get with him. He'll stay very, very well. Saddler maker horse. Sander Cleggan of Paul Nolan's ran well behind Goodland, wasn't it, at Leopardstown? He's only beaten 5 lengths. If Goodland wins the Ballymore, then you could be looking at that kind of form coming into it. So it's a race with a lot of depth. But I'm going to stick with 3-card Bragg. I think he is a good horse. The only problem is Gordon's record in this race is absolutely terrible. We've gone there with some really nice horses over the last few years, and they've all bombed out. So yeah, look at a tentative vote for 3-card Bragg.
Gary, I'll bring you in at this point. Who's your idea of the winner of the Albert Bartlett?
Oh, well, I think it all revolves around Corbett's Cross, Chad, whether he runs or not. I get the impression that maybe the McManus camp are a little bit worried that the Naas race is closer than ideal to Cheltenham for him to run. So maybe in his absence, it would really open things up. I mean, I'm not sure there's any other horse in the field that could have won that Grade 2 over 2 miles at Naas. That was a hell of an effort. Beat a good horse of Gordon's there. And he's proven himself over 3 miles, and he goes on all sorts of ground as well. He just looks a hell of a good horse, Corbett's Cross. So if he were to turn up, I wouldn't be looking any further. If he misses it, I liked Embassy Gardens at Thurles. I know it was a nothing race, like the 2 Dangers ran terribly that day, but he couldn't do any more than win with his head in his chest. And it's the same race Monkfish won before he went on to win this race, and he seems to be the number 1 for Willie Mullins in it. I do like 3 Car Bragg. I also like Hidden Valley Lake. I wouldn't write him off after his defeat at Clonmel. I think he might turn it around with the horse that beat him that day. So, yeah, it's tough to call if Corbett's Cross doesn't run. Marginal preference maybe for Embassy Gardens, but it wouldn't be a confident one.
Thank you for mentioning Monkfish. Both Jamie and I mentioned the horses who finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and both completely forgot the winner.
Oh, that was the year, yeah.
That was the year. I knew there was one we're missing. Of course, the winner. Katie, your idea of the Albert Bartlett, please.
I don't know. I think it's wide open. I think it's very competitive and wide open. Obviously, what Gary just said, I think Corbett's Cross is a hell of a horse. He's proven like to do what he did in Ace, and then we know he's won over 3 as well. I mean, he looks like he's everything covered. But interested to see if he runs. I think it's wide open after that, to be honest. I think. What about Gordon's horse? Favoured Champidou?
Yeah, like you mentioned him, like he's just very uncomplicated, Katie. Saddler maker horse. We know he's stay.
He seems to be very consistent, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good profile for it. So he could be. He definitely will be knocking on the door, 100%.
Yeah, like he's had a straightforward season, and he's after getting the job done every time. And
that's right.
I don't know, you can't beat consistency. So maybe him at a price.
Maybe Favourite the Champ do. So we'll move on then to the blue ribbon of the week, the Boodles Cheltenham Gold Cup. Obviously, it's all been about, all the talk prior has been about Galopin Des Champs, Willie Stay. I thought he was really good at Leopardstown. Jamie, I'm going to come to you first in this. If you could have a ride in the Gold Cup, who would you ride, and then who do you think will win? Which I guess is the same question.
I would probably pick, if I could have the first 5 horses' names down on a piece of paper, I'd probably blindfold myself and stick a pin in it, because I think this is a brilliant race. I really do. I think it's depth all the way through. You're looking for Galopin Des Champs to be the potential superstar. I think a lot of things have to go right for him in the early part of the race. He's jumping, it can be quite big, spends a little bit of time in the air. So I'm just a little bit fearful for him down over the first 2 fences that he maybe loses his pitch a little bit in the race. A Plutard, I've never seen a more impressive Gold Cup winner since I've been around. And then you're looking at Statler, he'll stay at the end. Conflated for me, if he's going to win a Gold Cup, it could be this year. He's coming in very fresh. I think he's improving myself. I really do. He's 9, but he's been campaigned Ryanair last year, but he looks fantastic. His work is really, really good, and I just can see him running a massive race. But for me, I think Galopin Des Champs is probably the one that when you're looking for that potential, he has it. He's a young horse. He's only a 7-year-old, and he could be the superstar.
He's just got a bit of that wow factor about him, hasn't he? And I just think there's something exciting about him. Obviously, most of us remember him falling at the last, when in control of the Turners last year. He's certainly got loads of pace. Now, Gary, I'll come to you next. Look, Galopin Des Champs 6-4, and I'm sure Mighty Potter's going to be your nap of the week at 6-4. Which do you think that Mighty Potter is just a much better bet at 6-4 than Galopin Des Champs to start with? And then how do you see the Gold Cup? Yeah,
that's probably fair, Chad. I definitely do think Galopin Des Champs is the one they all have to beat here, mind you. But like a Plutard, Jamie said it there. I mean, we probably all thought coming away from the Gold Cup last year that he'd go back and win it again, or would go very close to winning it again. Maybe I thought he might even be able to win 3 Gold Cups the way he came up the hill last year. But obviously it just hasn't happened for him this season. So hopefully he can bounce back. It would add a lot to the race, I think, if he were to turn up and run well. But look, it's very, very hard to have much confidence in him after the season that he's had, with the setback stopping him from running at Christmas, and then obviously Haydock was a bit of a disaster as well. Braidman's Game has to have a chance. Good winner to King George. In the past, I had my doubts about him, maybe whether he'd stay the Gold Cup trip at Cheltenham, but I think he will now. And his trainer obviously knows a thing or two about winning the race as well. And pleased to hear Jamie give Conflated a positive mention. I was surprised he's below the likes of Noble Yates and Statler in the betting, because to me, he's a classier horse than those two. He's won Savills Chase, he's won an Irish Gold Cup. And I kind of hoped he'd run in it last year. I think I'd agree with what Gordon said. I think he would have been second to Plutard if he ran in it last year. Maybe that might be the absolute best he can hope for this time around, but I wouldn't put anybody off having a few quid each way in him. I think he's a real solid horse. He seems a lot more reliable, a lot more tractable these days as well. Yeah, I could see myself on the day maybe backing Conflated either each way or perhaps without the top two or something like that.
Who's your idea of the winner of the Gold Cup, Katie?
Oh, I think it's a great race. I think we all need a new star. I'd love to see Galopin Des Champs win. You know, he needs to step up and do it now, but I think he should. I think Plutard, like Jamie, I thought it was so impressive last year. It's just such a pity it hasn't maybe gone to plan, but the vibe seemed to be good from the camp. I give Noble Yates a shout. I thought he was doing his best work at the end. Didn't get a hard ride the last day when he finished third. Definitely stays. Statler ran a cracker behind Galopin Des Champs the last day. Conflated, very consistent and was good the last day as well. I think it's wide open. I think Galopin Des Champs will probably win, but I cannot see Noble Yates out of the first three.
The Noble Yates for Katie each way. Now, before we end up and do our naps of the week, is there anything on the Friday, Jamie, that you're looking forward to seeing?
To be honest, I just from being an amateur's point of view, the Hunter's Chase, I'd love to see David Christie win it. He's not well at the minute, but he's got a couple of live chances again, obviously with Winged Leader, who was second in it last year, and also an up-and-coming horse called Vosele. He was just touched off by Billaway in the Champion Hunter's Chase back in Punchestown. So, yeah, look, I would love to see David Christie just have a Cheltenham winner. He wins the majority of the Hunter's Chases here in Ireland. A real staunch point-to-point man, and I'd love to see him win the Hunter's Chase.
That'd be great. Gary, is there anything for you on the Friday you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I'd absolutely echo what Jamie said there. I was going to say it myself, Chad. Top man David, obviously very, very sad he's not going to be able to be in Cheltenham to see the horse run this year. But I do think Vosele should take all the beating on it. I'd just love to see him win for David Christie. In the county hurdle, Filey Bay, there's another Irish horse that ran in England last time and ran a hell of a race. Now, it was only beaten by the horse that went from the front in that Betfair hurdle. I think he's going to take a fair bit of whacking in that. And actually one I missed the previous day, another one that ran in England and was put away after it shoot first in the Pertemps. I think he got £10 for winning that qualifier in October.
Not allowed, Gary. That was my nap. You've taken it.
No, I'm not going to nap him. No, I just gave him a mention. I just thought, I just thought, yeah, £10 wouldn't have stopped him that day.
And then Katie, anything for you on the Friday before we do naps?
No, I like what the lad said about Hunter's Chase. I think there's a couple of things I'd like to see to happen in Cheltenham next week. Would be for David Christie to win the Hunter's Chase, and we'd love to see Honeysuckle win the Mare's Hurdle. And yeah, but I would absolutely love to see David Christie's horse win for all the team on Friday.
And he's got a really strong hand, hasn't he, with Fern's Lock as well. So, look, best of luck to David Christie and Knowledge Yard with the runners in the Hunter's Chase. Now, before we end, we're just going to do a nap of the week. So, Katie, I know you've got a nap that you want to discuss. What is your best bet of the week?
Well, I had two, and then Gary took one. So
No, you can have it if you want.
I know. Yeah, what Gary said about Charles Burns' horse, I think in the Pretends, shoot first for me. And I also like a lot of joy in the Mare's Novice Hurdle of Willie. She's 8 or 9 to 1, and I think she's a great chance as well.
Thank you. So you've got shoot first in the Attempts and a lot of joy in the Mare's Novice. Gary?
Yeah, keep it simple. Hopefully, Chad's famous last words, but I'm going to stick with Mighty Potter and the Turners.
Mighty Potter and the Turners. And Jamie, what is your best bet of the week, please, mate?
I'm going to go with that Gary has taken my Mighty Potter. I'm going to go with Jerry Cologne. I do really like this horse. He's not as fancy as Mighty Potter, but he's a very good horse in his own right, and I think he'll take a bit of beating in that.
Lovely. Well, I will have £100 on Jerry Cologne, £100 on Mighty Potter, and then £50 on either on both Shoot For and Lot of Joy, with winnings going to any of your chosen charities, which I'll be in touch with you afterwards as well. Look, Jamie, Gary, Katie, thank you so much for your help. Good luck next week. Jamie, hope you have a winner or two.
Thanks for having me.
Katie, hope you're back a winner or two.
Cheers, Chad. Thanks a lot.
Hopefully.
Cheers, all.
Thanks for the tips, Gary. Thanks for
Don't thank me yet.
Thanks for taking part, Jamie, with all your useful information. Thank you very much.
No problem.